Hello, hello, Mr. Cooney back with the Odyssey, Book 9, Part B. And we are starting on page 1217 here, which in the Flip HTML software is page 33. Okay, so we left off with Odysseus and his men making a plan and picking the 12 bravest men to take this giant spike and hopefully grind it somehow into this Cyclops' eye. All right, starting on line 244. At evening came the shepherd with his flock. Actually, just to pause just a sec here, let's remember all of this is being narrated in a flashback by Odysseus to King Alcinous on the island of Scheria. Okay. At evening came the shepherd with his flock. Nope, got to zoom in. Sorry. I want you to be able to read. His woolly flock. The rams as well this time had entered the cave. And by some sheep herding whim or God's bidding, none were left outside. He hefted his great boulder into place and sat him down to milk the bleeding ewes in proper order, put the lambs to suck, and swiftly ran through all of his evening chores. Then he caught 2 more men and feasted on them. My moment was at hand, and I went forward, holding an ivy bowl of my dark drink. Remember the brandy that they had? Looking up, saying, Cyclops, try some wine. Here's liquor to wash down your scraps of men. Taste it and see the kind of drink we carried under our planks. I meant it for an offering, but if you would help us home. But you are mad, unbearable, a bloody monster. After this, will any other traveler come to see you? He seized and drained the bowl, and it went down so fiery and smooth that he called for more. Give me another, thank you kindly. Tell me, how are you called? I'll make a gift that will please you. Even Cyclopes know the wine grapes grow out of grassland and loam and heaven's rain. But here's a bit of nectar and ambrosia, so he likes it, right? He's drinking more. 3 bowls I brought him, and he poured them down. I saw the fuddle and the flush come over him, and then I sang out in cordial tones, Cyclops, you remember my honorable name? Remember the gift you promised me, and I shall tell you. My name is Nobody. Father, mother, friends, everyone calls me Nobody. And he said, Nobody's my meat then, and after I eat his friends, others come first. There's a noble gift now. Even as he spoke, he reeled and tumbled backward, his great head lolling to one side, and sleep took him like any creature. He passing out. Drunk, hiccuping, he dribbled streams of liquor and bits of men. Now, by the gods, I drove my big handspike deep in the embers, charring it again, cheered my men along with the battle talk to keep their courage up. No quitting now. The pike of olive, green though it had been, reddened and glowed as if about to catch. I drew it from the coals, and my four fellows gave me a hand, lugging it near the Cyclops as more natural force nerved them. Straight forward they sprinted, lifted it, rammed it deep in his crater eye, and I leaned on it, turning as, Homeric simile here, as a shipwright turns a drill in planking, having men below to swing the 2-handled strap that spins it in the groove. So with our brand, we bored that great eye socket while blood ran out around the red-hot bar. Eyelid and lash were seared, and the pierced ball hissed, broiling, and the roots popped. Ooh. Remember, he's only got one eye. This is it, right? In a smithy, okay, a smithy would be a blacksmith shop, right? Like a forge. One sees a white hot axe head or an adze plunged and wrung in cold tub, screeching steam, the way they make soft iron hail and hard. Just so, comparison, right? That eyeball hissed around the spike. The Cyclops bellowed and the rock roared around him, and we fell back in fear. Clawing his face, he tugged the bloody spike out of his eye, threw it away, and his wild hands went groping. Then he sent up for a howl for Cyclopes, who lived in caves on windy peaks nearby. Some heard him, and they came by divers ways to clump around outside and call, What ails you, Polyphemus? Why do you cry so sore in the starry night? You will not let us sleep. Sure, no man's driving off your flock. No man has tricked you, ruined you. Out of the cave, the man with Polyphemus roared in answer, Nobody's tricked me. Nobody's ruined me. To this rough shot, they made a sage reply. Well, if nobody's played you foul, there in your lonely bed, we are no use in pain given by great Zeus. Let it be your father, Poseidon, Lord, to whom you pray. So saying, they trailed away, and I was filled with laughter. This is Odysseus narrating again, to see how like a charm the name deceived them. Now Cyclops, wheezing as the pain came on him, fumbled to wrench away the great doorstone. Next page. And squatted in the breach with arms thrown wide for any silly beast or man who bolted, tried to get away, right? Hoping somehow I might be such a fool. But I kept thinking how to win the game. Death sat there huge. How could we slip away? I drew on all my wits, ran through the tactics, reasoning as a man will for dear life, until a trick came and it pleased me well. The Cyclops' ram were handsome, fat, with heavy fleeces, a dark violet, the rams, the sheep, right? 3 abreast, I tied them silently together, twining cords of willow from the ogre's bed, and then slung a man under each middle one to ride there safely, shielded left and right, so 3 sheep could convey each man. I took the woolliest ram, the choicest of the flock, and hung myself under his kinky belly, pulled up tight, with fingers twisted deep in sheepskin ringlets and an iron grip. So breathing hard, we waited until morning. When dawn spread out her fingertips of rose, there's that device again, the sun came up, and rams began to stir, moving for pasture, and peals of bleating echoed round the pens where dams and udders full called for a milking. Blinded and sick with pain from his head wound, the master stroked each ram and then let it pass. But my men, riding on the pectoral fleece of the giant's blind hands, blundered, never found. Last of them all, my ram, the leader, came, weighted by wool, and me with my meditations. The Cyclops patted him, and then he said, "Sweet cousin Ram, why lag so behind the rest of the night cave? You never linger so." We know why. It's kind of dramatic irony there, right? Like in Shakespeare, we know Odysseus is strapped underneath him. "You never linger so, but graze before them all and go afar to crop sweet grass, to take your stately way, lead among the streams until at evening you run to be the first one in the fold. Why now so far behind? Can you be grieving over your master's eye? That carrion rogue and his accursed companions burnt it out while he had conquered all my wits with wine. Nobody will not get out alive, I swear." Next page. "Oh, had you brain and voice to tell me where he may be now, dodging in all my fury. Bashed by hand and bashed on this rock wall, his brains would strew the floor, and I should have rest from this outrage, and nobody worked upon me." Back to Odysseus narrating. "He sent us into the open. Then, close by, I dropped and rolled clear of the ram's belly, going this way and that to untie the men. With many glances back, we rounded up his fat, stiff-legged sheep to take a board and drove them down to where the good ship lay. We saw, as we came near, our fellows' faces shining. We saw them turn to grief, tallying those who had not fled from death, all the ones that he ate, right? I hushed them, jerking head and eyebrows up, and in a low voice told them, 'Load this herd, move fast, and put the ship's head toward the breakers.' They all pitched in at loading, then embarked and struck their oars into the sea. Far out, as far offshore as shouted words would carry, I sent a few back to the adversary." So he's yelling. It's not enough for him. He's got to yell back at the Cyclops as they leave. "Oh, Cyclops, would you feast on my companions? Puny am I in a caveman's hands? How do you like the beating we gave you, you damned cannibal, eater of guests under your roof? Zeus and the gods have paid you." The blind thing, in his doubled fury, broke a hilltop in his hands and heaved it after us, ahead of our black prow. It struck and sank and whelmed in a spuming geyser, a giant wave that washed the ship astern foremost back to shore. I got the longest boat hook and stood fending us off with furious nods to put their backs into a racing stroke. "Row, row, or perish." So the long oars bent, kicking the foam sternward, making the head until we drew away, twice as far. Now when I cut my hands, I heard the crew in low voices protesting. "God's sake, Captain, why bait the beast again? Leave him alone." I'm telling Odysseus, why do you have to brag, right? Why can't we just sail away? This is Odysseus's ego getting the best of him here, right? Putting them in danger. Next page. "That tidal wave he made on the first throw all but beached us, all but stove us in. Give him our bearing with your trumpeting." In other words, keep shouting, and even though he's blind, he'll know where we are, and he'll be able to throw another boulder at us. "He'll get the range and lob a boulder. Aye, he'll smash our timbers and our heads together." I would not heed them in my glorying spirit, but let my anger glare and yell. So you hear in Odysseus' voice how he kind of looks back and he realizes he's being kind of ridiculous, right? "Cyclops, if ever more mortal man inquire how you are put to shame and blinded, tell him Odysseus, raider of cities, took your eye. Laertes' son, whose home's on Ithaca. At this he gave a mighty sob and rumbled, "Now comes the weird upon me, spoken of old." Weird is another word for that you hear like in Viking culture and even earlier that means like destiny, right? "A wizard grand and wondrous lived here, Telemus, son of Eurymus. Great length of days he had in wizardry among the Cyclopes, and these things he foretold from time to come. My great eye lost in Odysseus's hands. Always I had in mind some giant, armed in some giant force would come to me here. But this, you, small, pitiful, and twiggy, you put me down with wine, you blinded me. Come back, Odysseus, I'll treat you well. Praying the god of earthquake to befriend you." He's offering the friendship of his father Poseidon, a force that otherwise might keep Odysseus from getting home. "His son I am, for he by his avowal fathered me, and he may heal me of this black wound, he and no other of all the happy gods are mortal men." Few words I shouted in reply to him. "If I could take your life, I would, and take your time away and hurl you down to hell. The god of earthquake could not heal you there." That's not going to make him very happy. At this, he stretched his hands out in the darkness toward the sky of stars and prayed to Poseidon. Uh-oh, this ain't going to be good. Praying up to his father, Lord of the seas and the storms. "Oh, hear me, Lord, Lord girdler of the islands, for if I am thine indeed, if I am your son, and thou art father, grant that Odysseus, raider of cities, never see his home. Laertes' son, I mean, who kept his hall in Ithaca. Should destiny intend that he shall see his roof again among his family and his fatherland, far be that day and dark the years between. Let him lose all companions and return under strange sail to bitter days at home." Kind of sounds like a curse, right? Or a prayer to his father to curse Odysseus. In these words he prayed, and the god heard him. Now he laid his hands upon a bigger stone and wheeled around, titanic for the cast, to let it fly in the black-prowed vessel's track. But it fell short, just aft the steering oar, and the whelming seas giant rose over the stone to bear us onward toward the island. There, as we ran in, we saw the squadron waiting, the trim ships drawn up side by side, and all our troubled friends who waited looking seaward. We beached her, grinding keel in the soft sand, waded in ourselves on the sandy beach. And we unloaded. All the Cyclops flocked to make division, share and share alike, and only my fighters voted that my ram, the prize of all, should go to me. I slew him by the seaside and burnt his long thigh bones to Zeus beyond the storm cloud, Cronus' son who rules the world. But Zeus disdained my offering. Disdain. Is that one of our vocab words? Whoops. If not, disdain means to like shun, right? So he does not accept that. Zeus disdained my offering, destruction for my ships he had in store, and death for those who would sail them, my companions. Now all day long until the sun went down, we made our feast on mutton and sweet wine. Until after sunset in the gathering dark, we went to sleep above the wash of ripples. When the young dawn with fingertips of rose touched the world, I roused the men, gave orders to man the ships, cast off the mooring lines, and filing in to sit beside the rowlocks, oarsmen in line dipped oars into the gray sea. So we moved out, sad in the vast offing, having our precious lives, but not our friends. And look at that, guys. Next is Circe the Witch. That is book 10. So that is the end of book 9. And you should go and finish those questions now and turn them in whenever I have decided to tell you to do that. I don't know about that right now. All right, see you soon.